We're going to do lesson 4.2. We're going to write equations in the point slope form. All right. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to take that highlighter and I want you to highlight point slope form. And then I want you to highlight the form. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Okay. How can you write an equation of a line when you are given the slope and a point? Now again, if we are connecting things, if we're paying attention to what we're reading and we're paying attention to what we're given, okay, the point slope form, you have to have a point and you have to have a slope, okay? Just like in 4.1, when I gave you and when we practiced with the slope-intercept form, what two things did you have to have? You had to have what? Slope, and you had to have the y-intercept, okay? So if you're paying attention to what they're asking, you should recognize, okay, they want me to use the point slope form. That means I need a point and a slope, okay? Two things. The ordered pair replaces the y sub 1 and the x sub 1. So some of you are still struggling with an ordered pair. Please understand, it's alphabetical. The x coordinate comes first, the y coordinate comes second, every single time. So if I'm going to replace y sub 1 and x sub 1, that means the other y and the other x are staying in the formula. They're staying in the problem. Slope replaces m. And listen, you should know this by now. I have drilled this into your head for so many weeks. You should no longer question what the letter m stands for. It stands for slope. So we're going to take the slope, plug it in place of m. We're going to take the ordered pair and we're going to put it in place of y sub 1 and x sub 1. All right, so let's look at example number 1. Write an equation in, and I want you to, again, let's take that highlighter and let's highlight point slope form because we have to recognize what they're asking us to do. They want an equation in point slope form. And it's of the line that passes through the given point and has the given slope. So again, they're giving us a point and they're giving us a slope. So we're going to simply plug them into the formula. Now, what is the point slope form of a line? Let's say it together. Let's write it together. Ready? Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. All right, that's the formula. So write it down. The more we write it down, the better we are going to be at memorizing it. So we are given a slope and we are given a point, and we're going to simply plug those into the formula. So y minus, we're going to bring that down, y sub 1. What is the y coordinate of the point they've given us? -1. Please do not think that the minus in the form replaces the negative in front of the 1. That's two separate negative signs. So you've got to write them both down. So y minus -1 equals, what's the slope they give us? What's our m? -2 times x minus, what is the x coordinate of our point? 3. So the only thing left to do is make sure there's no double negatives, make sure there's no simplifying we can do. What does the double negative turn into? A positive. So my final answer is y plus 1 equals -2 times x minus 3. Now, why is this as far as I have to go? Because they wanted the answer in point slope form. This is point slope form. And so we are finished. We don't have to go any further. We don't have to get y by itself. We don't have to distribute. We get to stop right there because they ask us for the equation in point slope form. Now, take a minute and work letter B with your table. All right, first thing we did, or we should have done, is we write down our formula. So y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Travis, what did you guys plug in for y sub 1?
0.
Good. My y coordinate of the point that I was given was 0. My slope, Daniel, what's my slope? Right, but what is my value for m? So we plug in a -2/3, and then x minus, Jaden, what goes in place of x sub 1?
4.
Good, the x coordinate of my point is 4. Now, is there anything I can do to this to simplify it? What is y minus 0? I never want to leave a 0 in my problem, okay, if I don't have to. So y minus 0 is what?
Y.
So y equals negative 2/3 times x minus 4. Now again, it just happens that y is by itself, but I don't need to go any further. I don't need to distribute. I don't need to do anything else because it says the equation needs to be in point-slope form. Okay? Are there any questions? This is simple. They give me the point, they give me the slope, I plug it in. Now, when it gets more complicated is when they ask us to write an equation in slope-intercept form. So take that highlighter, and I want you to highlight slope-intercept form. We got to go back to what we already know. What is the slope-intercept form of a line? Y equals mx plus b. So I want you to go down to step number 4. I've given you 4 steps. When all you're given is 2 points, there are 4 steps that are going to get you to the slope-intercept form. Okay. Now, in your lesson on Thursday, you had 2 points, and you found the slope. You identified the y-intercept, and you plugged it into y equals mx plus b. Do you remember that? Why can't I do that with these 2 points? Remember, we got to think back. So everybody go back to 4.1. You were given 2 points, but one of them was your y-intercept. So you found the slope, and then you identified your y-intercept. What does the y-intercept have that neither of these points have? And I talked about it in the lesson. Nate. Very good. Remember, I emphasized when you're looking at a y-intercept as an ordered pair, the x-coordinate is always going to be 0. Do either of these points have an x-coordinate that's 0? No. So that's what I'm going to look for. That's how I know that this isn't as simple as it was in 4.1. Okay? So I'm going to follow these 4 steps. Now, step number 4. Let's skip down to step number 4 for just a second. It says solve for y. The reason I'm solving for y is because they asked me to put my equation in slope-intercept form. So one more time, everybody tell me, what is slope-intercept form? Good. Then right next to your step 4, I want you to write y equals mx plus b. Okay, this is how you become a good math student. You take good notes. All right? If I'm solving for y in step number 4, it's to get it in the form y equals mx plus b. All right, now, let's go back to step number 1. Use the slope formula to find the slope. What is the slope formula? We're going to write it down and we're going to highlight it. What is the slope formula?
M equals y minus y over x.
You got to give me the whole formula. M equals y minus y over x minus x. Okay? Write it down next to step number 1 and highlight it. There again, that's a formula you've got to make sure you know in order to be successful on this lesson. Okay? So, we are going to go to problem A, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to use the slope formula, m equals y minus y over x minus x, and we're going to plug our values in. All right? Malcolm, how do you want to do y minus y?
10 to 4.
All right, he's going to do 10 minus 4, which means, Malcolm, what do you have to do for x minus x?
3 minus 1.
Very good. If he's going to start with 10, he's got to go back and start with 3. So 10 minus 4 divided by 3 minus 1. Now what is 10 minus 4? And what is 3 minus 1? 2. So m equals 3. Now circle it. Don't box it in because it's not our final answer, but circle it because we need it to stand out. We've got our slope. What does step number 2 tell me to do? Choose a point. Does not matter which point I choose, but I got to choose one and we're going to circle it. Blake, pick a point. Which one you want to use? 1, 4 or 3, 10?
3, 10.
All right, everybody circled 3, 10. I like it. Now step number 3. We plug the point and the slope into the point slope formula. So write down beside that step, what is the point slope formula? Everybody together. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Okay? Highlight it. Write it down and highlight it. What is the point slope formula? It's y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Now, do you see, as we do these steps, we already have used 2 formulas that we've learned. Okay? So is a process to this that you are going to have to study and memorize and learn. All right. So let's plug our point and our slope into, let's write down the formula again. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. So y minus, what was our y coordinate? Blake chose 3, 10. So what's the y coordinate? 10. Equals, what's the slope we found?
3.
We found it down here. M equals 3. So we're replacing m with 3. And then Chase, x minus, what's our x coordinate in our point? 3. Awesome. Now, normally, we would stop right here. But because they want the final answer in slope-intercept form, I have one more step. I have to solve for y. I have to get it into y equals mx plus b form. Now, we should not struggle. If we look at this problem, this is an equation. So we go back into our memory into don't call me after midnight. And what am I supposed to do first when I'm trying to solve for anything? For any variable? Distribute. Do we have the distributive property?
Yes.
Yes. So we are going to bring down y minus 10 equals, and we are going to distribute. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Now, Luke, if I want y by itself, what is the only thing left for me to do to get y by itself? Move that negative 10. And how do I move it? I'm going to add it to both sides. Make sure when you add it on the right side of the problem, add it to its like term, which is the negative 9. So I cross that out, and y equals 3x plus 1. Is it in the correct form?
Yes.
Yes. And that is my final answer. So now I know what to do. If I'm just given 2 points, one of them is not my y-intercept, and I want to put it in slope-intercept form, these are my 4 steps. Okay? All right, now let's look at letter B. You got to follow those steps again. The only difference now is I'm given a graph. And I love graphs because I can really quickly find my slope. Slope is what over what? Okay, slope is rise over run. And listen, I'm going to work to the side of this. You should have room below it. But rise over run comes in handy when I'm looking at a graph. And for those of you doing letter C on your project, this is what you're doing when it asks you to prove with a graph that your slope is positive, negative, 0, or undefined. Okay? I taught you a couple weeks ago, if I have 2 points on a graph, all I have to do is connect them with 2 moves. So I'm going to start up here at 1, 2. I'm going to draw the line down till it's lined up with my other point. And then I'm going to draw a line to the right. So I've made 2 moves. How many spaces down did I move? If I started at 1, 2, how many spaces down? 4. And I went down, so that's what kind of a motion on a coordinate plane? So that's negative 4. And I went to the right, how many spaces? 2. And that's a positive direction, so it's positive 2. All right, so Carson, if slope is rise over run, which of those motions was my rise and which one was my run? Good, so negative 4 is my numerator. And 2 was the run. Now, what is negative 4 divided by 2? Negative 2. So without having to do the whole formula, I was able to find my slope. Now, if you want to use the formula, by all means, take the 2 points they give you and do the formula. You're going to get this same exact thing. All right? But now we have our slope. What is step number 2? Avery, what's step number 2? Look at your notes. Everybody should be looking at your notes. What's step number 2?
Choose a point.
All right, which point do you want to choose? Avery?
3, negative 2.
All right, he's going to use 3, negative 2. Personally, I would try to use an ordered pair without any negatives, but that's okay. You can do whichever point you want. So now we have our point and we have our slope. What is Talmadge step number 3, according to our notes? All right, so what is the point slope formula? All right, minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. So that is our point slope formula. That's where we're going to plug our point and our slope. All right, Kayla, y minus. What's the y coordinate that we're plugging in? Negative 2. What's our slope, Kayla?
The slope was negative 4
which is what? What's our final slope that we circled? Okay, -2. And then x minus, what's the x coordinate, Loza, for the point he chose? 3. Now, according to what we've been asked to do, are we finished yet? It is not in slope-intercept form, so we got to go to step 4, which is what? Everybody should be looking at your notes. What is step 4? Solve for y. All right, what jumps out at us first in this problem? Got a double negative, so we got to make it positive. All right, Deslin, what are we going to do first? In our mission to get y by itself, what do I have to do first? Don't call me after midnight. This is an equation. I got to distribute. Good. So I'm going to bring down y plus 2, and I'm going to distribute. -2 times x is -2x. What is -2 times -3? Positive 6. All right, Nate. Got to get y by itself. Still not done. How do I get y by itself?
Move 2 to the side.
Okay, I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. Remember, subtract 2 from its like term on the right side, which would be the 6. So y equals -2x. What's 6 minus 2? Plus 4. So now is it in slope-intercept form? Yes. 4 steps. Find the slope, pick a point. Plug the point in the slope into the point-slope form, then solve for y. All right, any questions? All right, now let's look at example number 3. Again, we have to be able to understand what they're asking us to do. So get your highlighter. Let's look at the instructions. It says, write a linear function, f. Now we have to know what they're asking us to do. If they're asking us to write a linear function, they want an equation that is written in slope-intercept form. Okay, that's what a linear function means. However, instead of using y, we are going to use f of x. So highlight where it says linear function f, and then above it or below it, wherever you can fit it, write down what that means. That means they want your final answer as f of x equals mx plus b. So it's still slope-intercept form. It's just we're going to put a f of x instead of a y. But we know that they equal the same thing. So it doesn't matter. That shouldn't throw us off too much. Okay, now let's see what you learned in lesson 4.1. If this is what my problem looks like, somebody raise your hand and tell me what is the ordered pair that I can pull from that right there, from f of 2 equals -2. If you think back, hold on, somebody raise your hand so we don't have everybody shouting at once. What is the ordered pair that I can pull straight from that problem? Avery. Say it again.
-2.
No, an ordered pair.
Oh, an ordered pair. 0, -2?
No.
-2 and 1.
No.
2 and 1.
Talmadge.
2, -2.
2, -2. Good job. All right, let's look at it. Why? Remember in the lesson last week I taught you, what is normally in parentheses? X. So when they put a number there, they've told you that the value of x is that number. So x equals 2. Now, f of 2 is the same thing as f of x. So the f of x equals -2, but what can I replace f of x with? Y. So y equals -2. So my x coordinate is 2, my y coordinate is -2. You see that? So I should be able to look at that problem and very quickly say, oh, my ordered pair is 2, -2. So what would be the ordered pair for f of 1 equals 1? 1, 1. Because the number in parentheses is my x value. The number to the right of the equal sign is my y value. All right, so very good, Talmadge. Very good. Now, let's go back and now that we have our 2 points, all right, you keep all that information. I'm going to erase it so I have room. But what is our first step now that we have identified our 2 points? Look at your notes. What is step number 1?
No, find. Pick a unit.
Find. Okay, very good. Listen, don't try to guess. Look at your notes. Don't try to guess. It says use the slope formula. So everybody write down the slope formula. M equals y minus y over x minus x. Okay, M equals. Travis, what do you want to do for y minus y?
Let's do 1 minus negative 2.
1 minus negative 2 divided by?
1 minus 2.
Good. 1 minus negative 2. Now what jumps out at you right now? The double negative. The double negative becomes positive. So what is 1 plus 2?
3.
3. And what is 1 minus 2? Negative 1. Good, I heard it. And what is 3 divided by negative 1? Negative 3. So we circle it. We don't box it in. It's not our final answer, but we need it to stand out. There is our slope. All right, Blake, what is step number 2?
Choose one.
All right, pick a point.
1, 2.
Hold on. These are our 2 points right there. 2, negative 2, and 1, 1. Pick one of them.
1, 1.
Good choice. 1, 1. All right, Luke, what's step number 3? I've got a point and I've got a slope. What do I do with it?
The point and the slope and the point slope formula.
All right, Luke, what is the point slope formula?
Y minus y
Sub 1.
sub 1
Uh-huh.
equals n times x minus x sub 1.
Very good. So y minus what, Luke? What's our y coordinate?
1.
Good. Equals, Jamara, what's our m? Negative 3. Layla, x minus, what's our x coordinate?
1.
Awesome. All right, are we finished?
No.
No. All right, Talmadge, what are we going to do next? What is step number 4?
Solve for y.
All right, what are we going to do first if we want to solve for y?
Plug in.
We've already plugged everything in. Remember when I solve equations, don't call me after midnight. What am I supposed to do first to solve an equation?
Distribute.
Do I have the distributive property? Yes. So y minus 1 equals negative 3x. Very good. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. Nate, is my problem finished? No, what have I still got to do?
You still gotta move the 1.
Good, I got to move that 1 and I'm going to add it to both sides because I need y by itself. Now, remember, linear function. So instead of bringing down that y, I'm going to replace it with f of x because they are the same. But because it asks for a linear function as my answer, I've got to put f of x in my final answer. Now, bring down the rest of the problem. Negative 3x plus, what's 3 plus 1?
4.
4. And that is writing a linear function f with the given values. And that is lesson 4.2.